Virtual reality.
Okay, so much to talk about this week. I was in DC starting from Wednesday, just got back Saturday night. So much happened while I was there. I kind of overbooked my social schedule, saw a lot of different people and met a lot of new people. Saw people that I saw last year at the Opera Conference, showed them the updates. Last year at the Opera Conference in San Francisco, I was showing the DK1, which has rotational tracking, but not positional tracking, line dance thing, remember last week. And it was cool to show a lot of people who saw my original thing updates. And, I was showing the mobile VR on the phone, and then the Oculus DK2, which again, lets you move around and lean into all sorts of cool stuff like that. So we set up the booth. Quick technical thing that was kind of interesting is I really thought that I was going to have to use an HDMI splitter, which I did last year, to be able to get the feed from the Oculus Rift from the laptop to both a monitor and, like a projection system or something like that, because the Oculus Rift plugs in via HDMI cable and it's not very easy to split that feed to multiple sources. Anyway, what I ended up using eventually was Chromecast. That was a bit of an interesting process, and I don't know why I'm putting this under VR. This should almost be like technology or something, but interesting kind of thing. I did find a way using a laptop to feed internet, because Chromecast, it turns out, requires not just a wireless connection and all the devices that are using it to be on the same wireless network. It actually requires an internet connection, because I guess Google wants to keep track of everything people are doing on Chromecast. So there was Wi-Fi at the Marriott where the Opera Conference was, but I needed to find a way to get that internet over to the Chromecast and any other devices that were going to use it. Chromecast does not do well with internet portals. So something like a hotel Wi-Fi network that requires you to log in on a website, Chromecast can't do that. But eventually I found a way with my laptop to broadcast the signal. It seems like an illegal thing, but I guess it's totally cool, using an app called Connectify. Check that out if you ever need to take an internet signal and broadcast it out via kind of like a router kind of thing. So anyway, through the Chromecast, I was able to swap between a YouTube playlist of a bunch of VR stuff that I've done in the past when, nothing was going on. It worked as like a nice slideshow. And then I was also able to do the feed of the DK2 stuff. The only model I was able to optimize enough to make work really cleanly on the laptop, which has nowhere near the specs recommended for DK2, was our Wisconsin model. And I did all sorts of video gaming optimization things. I finally made my first texture atlas, which is where you take everything in the model and you put it all on one material, and that one material covers all the textures and everything that's in the entire model. That was kind of interesting. Looks like it'd be impossible to do Shoreditch for some reason, but it worked for Wisconsin. Sorry, back to Chromecast. And so I'm swapping between the feeds between the laptop, which is playing YouTube, the laptop when it's doing the Oculus Rift DK2 and that mirrored image, so when people are looking around, people can see what they're seeing, and then the wireless version for the cell phone, the mobile VR. Honestly, I think a lot of people really like the DK2, but it's more impressive to show them the phone, especially when I'm not at the booth. I ended up carrying it with me a lot of different places. My boss had the great idea to keep it in Tupperware because it's cardboard and pretty easily breakable, so that's a good way to pack it and bring it around. But that was really impressive because I had that with me a lot of the time, and just to show that to people randomly at different events and be like, oh, look at this, here's my cell phone, pop that in VR. That was really a cool thing, because that for people seemed like, oh my god, this isn't even a special device made for VR. It doesn't have a billion wires or anything. It's just a phone. I have a phone, I know what that's like, and it's relatable in a different way from the Oculus Rift, which is still very foreign to people. So, even though I feel like Google Cardboard is still getting kind of a bad rap because it's seen as kind of like low rent or something like that, there's so much potential, and it's really a clean, easy way in for a lot of different people. So I still think there's a lot of potential there. Anyway, so yeah, the VR aspect, I'm going to be talking about so many different aspects of this Opera Conference, but as far as VR goes, we had our booth, we were showing off all the different theater designs and stuff we do, and then I was demonstrating, look, here's what our Oculus can do. We can lean, we can go to different seat views, we can get a sense for what the hall is like, see, I gave a lot of the same spiel that I did during my VR talk for the New York City VR meetup group the other week, and just talked about, how it's useful for everything from our design to presenting to someone to, for them, this is what opera people care about, donors. If you can get people excited about a space, it's really cool to be able to show them that. I ended up talking a lot about the Moran, and I'm a little bit frustrated that we haven't really moved forward with that yet. That's not by my choice. My company, the people involved with it right now are kind of traveling a lot, and I've never managed a project or anything like that, so I can't really push it forward, but it's been a couple months now, and they're just waiting for us to be like, like, hey, this is how much we need to be paid or something like that. And I'm just waiting for that to finally get the ball rolling before we can finally get started working on the new Moran, which I'm really excited for. But anyway, I was pretending kind of at the Opera America conference that we were already moving with that, because that's a great example of being like, oh, an app can be great for getting donors excited and getting apathetic people excited about a project that maybe not a lot of other people understand yet. And VR is so different from showing people a sketch or a rendering, because it immerses them in it and they feel like they're in the space and they can form attachments to the space in a way that they might not form attachments to a picture, which can be photoshopped and has a less strong element of truth or honesty to it. So that's kind of a quick sampling of what the VR aspect of the project was like. It was really cool to just have that thing on the road, and I introduced it to so many different people. And looks like because of one of the guys I kept in touch with last year, his name's Derek Wang. He is very kind of well known right now in the opera world because he wrote a Scalia, Ruth Bader Ginsburg opera that Justice Scalia, who was giving away like the keynote address on the last day of the conference, she kind of name dropped him and talked about how much she loved her portrayal and the thing. I was talking with him, the composer of this, the night before with someone from Open Stage, a producer named Jessica, and they're trying to get off the ground a very site-specific, technology forward-looking opera. And apparently I was taking a nap when she was at our table, but she took a look at our mobile stuff and, especially the phone thing, and thought like, oh my God, this is the future, this is amazing. And she was really excited to meet me, and I was excited to talk to her because she was probably the most excited person out of everyone I'd met so far about what the capabilities were for VR for opera, and not just in a donor capacity, but in a performative capacity. So we talked a little bit about the difference between augmented reality and virtual reality, and sat down for a night of drinking and brainstormed with Derek and her about, where something like this could go, what the potential is for creating an opera that works in one specific location and uses virtual stuff in an interesting way. Now, they originally wanted to use augmented reality. Virtual reality is when everything you're looking at around you is fake virtual. Augmented reality is when everything you're looking around you is real, and then there's some virtual things projected onto it. So you're looking at a crowd of people and they've got like their Facebook or LinkedIn profiles popping above their head. I'm sure we're not very far away from that, but I think augmented reality, before it has a kind of ubiquity to it, is going to be a few more years, whereas as I've been showing with my cell phone stuff, that technology is kind of already here. It's only going to get better, it's going to be more refined, but because it's built into a smartphone, and so many people have smartphones, I'm trying to push these guys to try to work on an opera that basically tells everyone who's coming to a show, pull out your phone, download this app, and then at key moments in the show, characters are going to like put on their goggles, and then you can put on your goggles and you can look around. And then, the idea to make it site specific, maybe you put on the goggles and say you're in a warehouse. The first thing you see is that warehouse, but represented virtually. And you look around, and now because you're in a virtual space, crazy things can happen. There can be tears in the fabric of the universe. There can be fire and smoke and water. And, someone brought up a cool idea to me, like, imagine if in this virtual version, everything feels like it's on fire, and then they actually heat up the room where there's smoke. Or, you can kind of do some maybe not quite as gimmicky smell-o-vision kinds of things where the virtual aspects of the production can start to make their way a little bit into reality, but just in a suggestive way. So anyway, just this idea that because everyone has a phone, easy to download an app, very easy to integrate aspects of the potential of the magic of what you can do in a virtual world, in a kind of video game interactive world. A lot of potential there. So that's kind of where that's headed. And then jumping ahead a little bit, when I got back to the city last night, I went to a friend's birthday party, Nick Douglas, who I've been working with for a couple years now between Slackatory stuff, and he helped me make my Sims film and all sorts of random things like that. And I saw Jason Oberlancer, who I hadn't seen in a long time. He's kind of well known for like his Tumblr. He did a Tumblr called I Love Charts, and he's working on all sorts of cool other projects. And he also composes chamber music. He's made some really cool stuff with that. And when I started bringing up this idea of a VR opera, and again, I had the cardboard with me, and I was showing some people at this birthday party all the cool stuff that can happen with that, Jason said that he would be very interested in working on the music for VR opera. And so, you know what? Regardless of what happens with the collaboration with Derek and Jessica at Open Stage, like, maybe we'll just work on something. That'd be kind of cool. I'm inspired enough now by, the experiences I've had at the 2 different opera conferences I've been to and the operas I've seen in my life so far, which is like 4 or 5. But it could be kind of fun just to dive in and try to write a libretto, have Jason there helping me with the music, have someone like Dan King helping me with like Unity, and, it could be a really fun experiment that might fail spectacularly, but it could also be really fun to be pushing for that new technology, because how do we get new, younger people, maybe people who don't have a lot of money, excited about something like opera, which is traditionally seen as very out of touch and too long and too expensive. And yeah, could be a really fun project. So I'll let you know if anything moves forward with that. VR, Opera America, cool.